What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Trout Wrangler Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Garrity. Today is Tuesday, April 29th, currently 3:30, and we have a very special guest today. I'll kick it over to you to let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. My name's Al Perkinson, and I'm the CEO and founder of Bajío Sunglasses here in New Smyrna Beach, Florida.
Cool deal, man. So we'll get right into it. I have a ton to ask you today, and I think it's gonna be a great episode. But like I said, it's a pleasure to have you on, and I greatly appreciate you coming on to talk. But give me a little rundown from the beginning of your fishing journey and all that. I took a look at your LinkedIn profile, and it looks like you lived in some pretty awesome places and all that.
Yeah, it's like most people, you start out fishing when you're a little kid, and I grew up in North Carolina, and so there are a lot of creeks and rivers, and a lot of bass ponds and things like that, and so my brother, I was the oldest of four brothers, and so my brother just under me was a freckly redhead who's like had more energy than you can imagine. And the two of us were just like exploring and out in the woods dawn till dusk about every day. And as I grew up, we'd go to the beach all the time. And, my brothers and I would just fish on the pier and, in the surf everywhere that we could. And my dad never fished. And so, he would accommodate us, but he wasn't like leading the charge. So we were on our own to do that. And then as I got older and got the opportunity to go to the places that I watched on TV, like, Flip Pallet and fishing for bonefish and down in the Keys and the Bahamas and, all those, the dream of fishing for trout out west. I was able to do all those things. And I remember thinking, I was my first bonefish flat that I was on. I think it was in the Bahamas, and I remember thinking, man, I've dreamed about this for so long. I hope it's going to live up to my dream. And I got out there. I'm like, yes, this lives up to my dream. This is amazing. And the same thing with trout. I remember catching my first trout, uh, and I tied everything myself and was out there by myself, and I think I was in Montana and was able to catch it, and same kind of feeling. And that's the feeling that we get every time we go out there. It never gets old,
Never.
and we just love it.
Oh yeah, I think I'm the same way. My dad never fished. I was kind of like the old one. I was like, you know what, this is kind of cool. I kind of want to get into this when I was a kid. And then my uncle Kevin was actually pretty big into fishing, but I kind of drove the whole way myself. But where did you go to school and what did you study? I heard a kind of a cool little tidbit about that from Andrew.
Yeah, I went to college in North Carolina at a small school in Laurinburg, called St. Andrews College.
Okay.
It was like 800 kids, pretty pretty mixed bag. I mean, a lot of you know, it wasn't your traditional school, so there were people from all over the country that came there, and it was a pretty eclectic crew. And I ended up studying sculpture in college and being a sculpture major. And I started out as a business major. And honestly, when I first started, I wasn't a very good student. And I kind of screwed around. My first school was UNC Charlotte, and we just partied for a year, and then I dropped half my classes, and after a year, I was like, man, I don't know what the heck I want to do. I don't know why I'm here, and I'm just going to take a break. So I became a buddy of mine was doing surveying, land surveying, and he said, man, you should come out here. We need somebody, and you might enjoy it. We're just in the woods chopping down trees all day long. And so I did that. And um, I remember, you swing a bush axe to chop down the lines. And I accidentally, like the first week, hit the hand of the crew chief. and
Ooh.
cut it open by accident, obviously. And so he was out of commission. So I became the crew chief, and I ended up surveying for about 2 years, and it was amazing because we were just out in the woods all day from sun up to sundown, all the seasons, and it was an incredible experience. But then I went back to school and became a sculpture major after a little bit of a stint in business. And what I loved about it was you had to start with just a blank slate, whether you're doing a drawing or a lump of clay, and figure out what you're going to make out of nothing. And so you had to kind of have ideas um, and figure out like what you wanted to do. And then with sculpture, it was interesting because you're working in the round, so you're working on the whole thing at one time. You don't just work on one side. And I felt like I really carried that through into business. Starting this company, it's like making a giant sculpture, and you're just working all sides of it all at the same time, and creating something from scratch. And so it's an unlikely major that's been super useful to me over the years.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met a sculpture major, but that is pretty cool. I didn't even know they really had a major for that, but I completely understood what you said about UNCC. I went to East Carolina for
Well,
4 years, so I kind of had a similar experience. I ended my freshman year not in the greatest standing, but I ended up graduating and all that good jazz. But when did the idea of Bajío start to come to life, and when did it officially all come together?
I was with Costa Sunglasses for from like 2000 to 2016, and so over 15 years, and we grew that company from 6 or 7 million up to 160 something when I left. And we were purchased by a company called Essilor, which then later merged with Luxottica. And I hung around for about a year after they bought us. And then I could just see sort of the big corporations starting to come in and change a lot of things that we had built. And so Marguerite and I decided there was time for a change. We had done the Costa thing, and so we the folks at Sims out of Bozeman, Montana, had been contacting me and wanted me to come to work there and kind of do what we had done at Costa. So it was a hard decision because Costa was our baby. We built
Yeah.
that thing, and it was one of our sculptures. And but we made a decision to go. We went out to Bozeman for a couple of years. It was being bought by private equity. So they were just interested in making money, basically,
Oh yeah.
and not doing the stuff we wanted to do. So we then came back to the East and got an offer with hook fishing, and then was there for a year. And it was a private equity. It was just kind of a train wreck. Left there. And so then we were in Charleston and sitting around and trying to figure out what the heck we were going to do next. And it'd been 4 years since I'd left Costa, and I was like, we were, you know, I wouldn't say we were broke, but we were pretty close to it. I'd been like, a couple of jobs that didn't work out, so it was pretty much down at on my luck, pretty much at the bottom. And so I said to Marguerite one day, so, babe, the only way we can do what we want to do in a company and not be dictated by other people and by money and all of that is to start our own business. And she was like, "What? No way. We're not going to do that. We don't have any money." Um, you know, Costa's out there, they dominate the space. I'm like, nah, they're going to be backing away because Luxottica and their big parents don't like fishing, and there's going to be an opening for us. So she's like, all right. And so we just put our head down and started working on the concept. And it was, and then COVID hit. And so we were delayed for probably 6 months, waiting for COVID to kind of subside. And I would go upstairs into this little office we had, and just start putting stuff up on the wall and just kind of dreamboarding,
Yeah.
envisioning what this new company would look like. And then we just envisioned the whole thing right at the beginning and just said, look, let's not say why it can't be done. Let's just say what we want it to look like. And then that's what we did. And then it has pretty much happened. I was funny. I was looking at our original brand deck just last week. I'm like, damn, we've kind of done everything that was in this deck. This is
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool. And so yeah, and that's how the idea started. And I'd never raised money before, and met a guy who knew how to raise money and how all that stuff works. And so he and I just, I found all the people, I made the pitch, and then he did all the paperwork to make it happen. And we raised some money and launched the business, and this is our fifth year now, so it's
Oh
crazy.
yeah. I think a lot. I see. I fished in college, and I think a lot of people kind of saw that with the transaction of Costa, and
Hmm.
then I think you guys landed a lot of the guys that were with Costa, like on the elites and stuff like that, like Scott, um, and all those guys, and that's a good group of guys to have with you.
Yeah, I mean, we were actually able to bring, um, when Luxottica took over Costa, they shut down the office, the headquarters in Daytona, and let 300 people go in the course of like a week. And so Marguerite and I came down, decided to start the business here in New Smyrna, uh, just so we could hire all those people, all the best ones anyway, who got fired from the other place. And so they came in, already having all the connections, knowing all the people, and knowing how to do their job day one. So it's really helped us grow fast. And our whole team has a ton of experience, and so it's been a blessing to have all those folks, and they all want to kick Luxottica's ass too. So that helps as well.
Yeah, that is always a good thing to have good competition.
Yeah.
I was with Costa in college and then a little bit after college because I thought I wanted to go and make a stab at the opens at one point
Yeah.
and realized that that was way out of my pay grade and way out of that. And I kind of saw towards the end, like when Luxottica first grabbed it, I break like a pair of sunglasses and I'd send them back and they'd be like, "We can't do this," or they'd charge you for the repair and it'd be way more than what it was before.
Yeah.
And that's when like after that happened, I was like, all right, I was like, I got to find something new. And then I had a buddy who was like, it was actually I lived in Florida for 2 years, and you know Sodium Fishing Tackle over there in Crystal River. I
Yeah.
was in there, and they were like, you got to try out a pair of these. And I ended up looking at a pair, and I was like, these are unbelievable. And I ended up getting a pair of nippers, and I was like, these are unbelievable. I still got them. They're somewhere around here, unless my girlfriend moved them. But I love them. And that from that day on, I was like, I am gonna be a Bajío guy from here on out. So I was like, was that an original Costa frame, the nipper?
No, our frames we all designed from scratch and
Okay,
build them, build them from scratch. And a couple of the early pairs, you know, we sort of we were in such a time crunch to get launched. In some cases, we would take an old factory frame and then we'd modify it.
okay,
Uh, we did that at the first year, but since then we design and build everything from scratch ourselves.
okay.
So
Yeah, and that's
so yeah,
all in house too, isn't it?
it is. The whole team is in house, and then we have the manufacturing here too. So we get parts from all over the world. Uh, Unfortunately, you just can't source stuff in the United States anymore. But but yeah, we build it here. We cut the lenses. We have a lab downstairs, cut the lenses, assemble them, and package them and all that right here. So
That's all. That's
anytime anybody
unbelievable.
needs help or service, we can take care of it right here.
That's one of the things that I love about you guys is the service. And whenever I send my sunglasses back, they're always back within. I had them back one time in like 2 days, and I
Yeah.
was like, "That is unbelievable." And I that is one thing. Like when I have a pair of sunglasses go down, and it's like this fishing all the time. When you have a pair of sunglasses go down, and it's like a Wednesday or like a Thursday, you want to have those sunglasses back on a Friday or Saturday because it's like we're either going to be fishing a tournament or something like that, or either going fishing on
Yep.
Saturday. So that is a huge thing that I love about the customer service you guys have there right now.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, it's definitely the head of customer service reports directly to me. I meet with them each week. Our goal is for a real person to answer the phone in 3 rings or less. And we do that about 90% of the time.
Oh yeah,
And the other 10% will call them right back as soon as the guys get off the phone. But I mean, it's just kind of a pet peeve of mine. I mean, we've all been on hold for an hour or 2 hours with some company, and then when you finally get them on the phone, they can't help you with anything, or they're like in some other country or
yeah.
something. And I'm like, we are not going to do that in our business. We're going to answer the phone old school, and we're going to take care of people. So, uh, it's always nice to hear that is well received, and it's important.
But for people that don't know, where does the brand name Bajío originate from?
Well, we came up with it, and we were looking. When Marguerite and I were sort of envisioning the company, uh, we wanted to make it about something that we were both passionate about, and that it wasn't like about a marketing idea or something like that, but something we truly loved. So we said, what's the thing that we love the most? And it's like, look, if we're sitting in a panga in Mexico and fishing the flats, we're in paradise,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So we love the flats. We love to fish, primarily fly fish for permit and bonefish and tarpon and kudas and all that stuff. So we wanted to build the brand around that that world. And we love to help the local people who are in those places to help protect the habitat and the fish and all that. So we said, let's just make a brand about that, and that's what the proceeds will fund, or those kind of efforts. So we started looking around for a name. The first name we came up with actually was Panga, because of the boat. And but then there were a couple other brands, like Yeti had some Panga bags, and
Yeah.
I think Coast actually had one style that was called Panga. And we wanted a bigger name that was like the whole world. And so we just started Googling and came across the name Bajío, and I said, I think this word is the word for the shallows in Mexican. So we called a friend of ours down in Oaxaca and said, does this word mean what we think it means? And she goes, absolutely. It's an old Mexican word. We love that word. It's exactly what you want it to mean. And Americans won't be able to pronounce it, but what the hell? Um, and so that's what it is. That's how we came up with the name. It's the shallows, and the place we love the most. So that's the name.
I think the first time I saw the name, I looked at it and it's like I was like, what does that say? I was like Bajío, Bajío. I was trying to pronounce it, and then the guy at Sodium was like, it's Bajío. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he was actually the one that told me what it meant. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I think it's awesome because it's different. It's like out there, it's something where it's like I think part of what's cool about it is somebody has to figure out what it means, and they're gonna
Hmm.
Google it, and then it'll pop up.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it's worked. It's not. It gets pronounced a lot of different ways, but it gets people talking about it, I guess.
oh yeah,
But yeah, it's we we knew it was going to be. Some people would say, "Well, nobody can pronounce that, so that's a terrible name." But we're like, screw it. It's a name. It means what we want it to mean, and we'll roll with it. So
It's
yeah, Bajío it
original.
was.
It's original. That's what's good about it. But
There.
what was the hardest part about starting your business, and what were some things you guys had to overcome in the process of it?
Well, I feel like we've been overcoming adversity since the day we started, and it's been kind of one thing after another. It's almost comical. I think we'll look back on this and it'll all seem funny. I think it's a Bruce Springsteen song, but anyway, getting started, certainly coming up with an original concept was that's always the hardest. And so when you come up with something that you just keep trying and trying and trying, and your brain is like going to copy other stuff that's been done, and so you're looking for something that's new and different but still marketable and all that. Um, so coming up with that original concept of the brand was difficult, and then going out and raising money since we'd never done that before, that was kind of scary. And I remember I was going to fish in a fishing tournament in Key West, and so on the way down there, I just stopped off and started talking to people that I knew and telling them about what we were doing. And by the time, and then fished the tournament and then started doing the same thing on the way back. And by the time that we got down there to the Keys, I think people were just wanting to give me money. And I think I'd raised over $1 million. And then by the time I got back home, COVID hit, and everybody's like, "Hold on, we're going to put our wallets away. Let's wait and see how this thing, uh, how it does." So, so that was. Then we had to like sit on our hands and wait for 3 or 4 months before people were ready to invest and get a whole nother group of investors at that point. So we finally raised all the money in July of 2020, and then we had 6 months to create a whole line of sunglasses, get them produced, get them to market, build a whole company. That should have taken us 18 months, and we said we're going to do it in 6 months. And it was, I've never worked so hard, man. It was just night and day, weekends. We worked Christmas Day, we worked New Year's Day. Um, and then in the course of that, my dad passed away, my dog passed
Gosh.
away. Both of us got COVID and we're like on our backs for a month.
Oh,
I mean, it was just crazy. Then finally, we went on our first photo shoot where we like cobbled together all of these like sunglasses that were made from 3D printing, and but we had to get photography, so we went down to Mexico, and Jesse put us up in his lodge, uh, and a hurricane hit, and so we were out on the water in a hurricane, rain pounding. We'd wait till the rain would stop, then we'd take pictures. You know, one of our boats got hit by lightning,
oh my
and
gosh.
thank goodness somebody was killed. Um, and then we ended up, Jesse was like, "Look, man, we got to get the pictures. Just stay another week. It's on me." And so during that 2 week period, I mean, we got to know everybody super well, and because we just sat in the lodge and drank all day long and
Sounds like a
party.
good time.
We had a great time. So yeah, it was just kind of, one thing after another, throughout the history of this deal. And the economy's been a challenge. Everybody's like, it's going to be recession, going to be a recession. Just one thing after the other, but we've it's made us stronger, and it's really made the team come together. I think our team is just will not fail. We will not be denied. We do everything ourselves, and so we just like, if we hit adversity, we just roll up our sleeves. We're like, screw it, man. We're powering through. Let's get it done.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
That's the best way to do it, man. But
yeah.
were there any other Florida towns or cities that were in the running to be home for Bahia?
Nope.
No.
Costa had been up in Daytona, but we lived in New Smyrna. Most of the folks did, and we were in Charleston, and we're like, should we start it in Charleston? Because our daughter just got accepted to the art school there, and we really love Charleston. It's a cool fishing town. We live right near the river. So we were struggled between Charleston and New Smyrna. But then we came down to New Smyrna, I don't know, during the holidays or something. And, we came over the bridge and we were like, wow, this feels like home.
Yeah,
And this is the spot. So, yeah, we found an old race car garage out in the country and set it up to be our manufacturing and our offices. And, yeah, we love it here. It's
that's
awesome.
awesome. New Smyrna is an awesome area. I lived outside of the villages in Ocala for a few years, and I just kind of like rambled the coast of Florida, whether it was the Space Coast or that Crystal River area. I New Smyrna Beach was probably one of my favorite areas to be in that
Yeah,
Mosquito Lagoon corridor.
yeah. Mosquito Lagoon is amazing, and the Indian River. The beach is beautiful. It's a real town.
Oh yeah,
So the locals, there's a local community here, and it's not just a tourist place. So we love it. Feels really nice.
I feel like there's too many places in Florida that are just becoming a tourist place. Sadly,
Yeah, I mean, you need the tourism for
right,
people to have good shop business and stuff like that. But when it overruns the place, then that's when it kind of gets to be a problem.
right, and it's like old Florida is essentially like it's dwindling by the day, and we lived. I lived in Florida that 2 years when I was living in Ocala, and then we lived there previously when my dad got sent down there for a job. And it's like when we were living down there when my dad was down there for a job, it's like you kind of got to see a little bit of old Florida. You still had a ton of orange groves down there. And it's like when I came back, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I've been back and forth there before, just like down there fishing and stuff like that. But it's like old Florida is dwindling just so fast, and it's horrible to see. But
Yeah.
it is one of those things where it's like you need those tourists, but it's like leave the tourists in like Orlando at least, or but
But
um
the fishing is amazing. It's the number one fishing state,
oh
and
yeah,
there's no doubt about it. And you can catch every species here, freshwater and not trout, but the bass. All the offshore stuff, inshore
oh yeah.
stuff. It is a great fishing state. So
I took the 2 years I was down there for granted, and like when I moved back here, I was like, man, I was like a good day on Headwaters Lake or the Harris Chain would go crazy right now. And then I go out to Lake Norman and there's 8 bazillion people out there, and I'm like, oh man, I was like, I had to get back down to Florida at some point here soon.
yeah.
But what
So
other markets are you guys trying to get into other than fishing and surfing?
um, our focus is really on fishing and surfing is pretty tangential just because New Smyrna is a pretty unique place where people surf at the inlet. It's world class surfing here and world class fishing. So on the north end of the beach, you have surfing, probably the best, most consistent break on the whole East Coast. And then on the southern end, you got Mosquito Lagoon, which is incredible red fishing. And then you got offshore stuff as well. So we're mostly fishing, but got a good surf presence as well. And then it kind of just spreads out from there,
All right.
right? And so it eventually becomes more of a beach lifestyle type of brand, and just people who are on the water and boating is or just hanging out on the beach or exploring, biking, whatever. You kind of spread into that group, but fishing is our core, and it'll always be our core
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, I I think I love that because it's like that everybody that I see that are wearing mojitos are like fishing to the core. And it's like, I hunt as well, but it's like fishing is always that one thing that like drives me nuts. It's like, and that's how everybody who I've met that is kind of like involved in Bajío has been. It's like just fishing drives them absolutely bonkers in the greatest way possible.
Yeah, and if it's cool if you see somebody in an airport wearing Bajíos, you figure they probably fish, and you can just go
Yeah,
up and talk to them, and it makes super easy.
I've actually done that in the airport before. I was flying back here for like a wedding or something a while back. I saw a dude in Bajíos. I was like your sunglasses, you fish. We ended up sitting next to each other on the flight and talking fishing the entire flight.
Yeah, that's fun.
It was
Yeah,
awesome, but it's cool to see that because it's like it's like you see somebody and they're it's like a certain thing. You're like, you know what? They probably fish. It's like the same thing where it's like the tan line in the summer. It's like, all right, that dude's probably been staring down into the water, chasing a fish or something at one point. So it's like, I'm gonna go up and say a few words to him. Maybe, hopefully, they like fishing, and then we'll end up hitting it off.
yeah. I mean, it's a community, really,
Oh yeah,
and I've always just loved the fishing community because not that they're just. I mean, there aren't that many assholes in fishing.
no,
I mean, especially when you're talking about fishing. I mean, if you go talking about politics or whatever, you don't want to do that. But um, when you have that fish love for fishing in common, um, I mean, I just don't meet you know, a lot of negative, bad people in fishing. I think it's just a great community.
I did the
And
same thing here. I don't think I've met one dickhead in the fishing community.
yeah, yeah,
But
for sure.
let's talk about youth fishing for a little bit. I know you guys are huge advocates for youth fishing, and as a former participant in high school and college bass fishing, do you guys have anything in the works on that front?
Oh yeah, I mean we have community leaders for each of the fishing communities. And so Melinda Hayes is our community leader for bass fishing. And both her parents were tournament bass fisher, uh, men and women, anglers. And so she grew up in it. She knows everybody in the community. So we sponsor tons of college and high school teams and tournaments and all of that. And uh, super super into it. And bass has the most like organized youth fishing.
Oh, they do.
Like fly fishing out west, there's nothing like that. Saltwater, not really, but bass is like organized. And I remember going to some of the very first uh, Carico Media had the first bass tournament trail down in Texas, and I remember going to the first or second year that they launched it, and they had. I mean, that was before everybody got like fancy boats and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. So we had these college kids coming down there, and they from all over the country, and they were driving like a beat up truck with some old John boat pulled behind it, and
Yeah.
it was hundreds, if not thousands, of them coming in and competing, and it was the coolest thing. And so we were a sponsor of that early on at the other company, and so we've just maintained that interest all the way through. And anything that we can do to encourage kids and young people to get out and experience it and just touch nature and touch fishing. We think it's healthy, and it's just something we believe in, and we do as much of that as we can,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure.
And I think pouring more into those younger kids, they're like that's going to be huge. I think this is the generation like this is the COVID kids,
Hmm.
they couldn't do anything else. So what they do, they're like, you know what, I'm gonna go get a bunch of my buddies together and we're gonna go out and fish. And I think like pouring all that into the youth fishing is huge for this generation because those kids are gonna be the ones that end up going fishing the high school stuff, fishing the college stuff, and then you never know where they'll go from there.
Yeah.
No,
No, I hired Declan right out of college. He was actually I met him when he was still in college, and he was making some videos and actually had like a little line of fishing shirts that he had done. And um, so I just reached out to him, and we started talking. And when he graduated, had a social media spot open, and he joined us. So he's been with us from the very beginning, straight out of college, and I mean, that's his whole thing. He's got something called Next Gen Journal, where he profiles kids who might be 10 or 12 years old who are doing amazing fishing stuff and makes little films about them and puts it out on social. He's actually this weekend headed over to Arkansas, and Melinda's putting on a youth fishing tournament. He's
That's
probably got like 200 kids who are like 10, 12, 14 years old. And we're doing a story on a couple of them over there. But some of these kids are so capable. There are these other kids. I don't know, man. They're like 8 or 9 years old. They're throwing like an 8 foot cast net, uh, catching bait for their dad. Who's a commercial fisherman, and they're out there like on the water every day. They're just amazing stories with amazing kids all over the place.
it's
It's pretty neat.
it's crazy to see because it's like I know you got a lot of guys on like the Elite Series this year that they're like 21, 22 years old winning these massive tournaments. I mean, you had Easton Fothergill that just won the Classic, and that story is just unbelievable in itself. He's 23 years old, and
Hmm.
it's like you got McKinney out there. But what's even crazier is you got these kids now that they're like 10 years old. Their parents are signing off on them to fish the FLWs as a co-angler, and
Hmm.
they're absolutely tearing it up. Like
Hmm.
there's a little, I think it's like CJ something. He's a younger kid, little blonde kid, and he's fishing legit like professional level tournaments, absolutely just tearing them up. And you're like, you know what? That's something you look at, and you're like, I love to see that. That kid's not sitting on the couch at home playing Xbox. And I think that's like what the whole thing about getting another kid into the sport and that just saving a kid from the Xbox, get him in a tackle box.
Yeah, that's right. That's awesome. Instead of Xbox, think tackle box. I like that.
I came across the Next Generation Journal episode from New Orleans that you guys are doing. What other cities do you guys plan to expand to for that?
Well, the one in Arkansas is going to be a next gen journal piece, and then there's a gal in New Smyrna that has been the mate on her dad's fishing boat, and then she invented these lures and started selling these lures and stuff. And I know Declan wants to do one with her, and we're always looking for what's the next one going to be. I think he's probably got a list of a few more candidates, but
Okay.
yeah, if you hear anybody who might be a good one, shoot them our way.
I'll shoot you guys one your way. It's so I'll tell you the story real quick. It's actually the high school fishing club I fish for. It's called Riley's Catch. It's out of Union County.
Hmm.
How it was started was a kid, Riley Lehman. Um, he was a year older than me. Ended up passing away in a truck accident. And before he passed away, he had a letter written up to our principal to propose a fishing team. Never got to give it to our principal.
Mm.
His parents brought it to our principal, and the principal was like, "Let's do it." So they ended up starting the club, and they had like two or three boats at these tournaments my sophomore year. I hadn't got into it at that point. My buddy Colton was, and then my junior year might have been the second semester of my sophomore year. Me and my buddy Colton started fishing them all. And our sophomore year, we double qualified for nationals and couldn't go. And then our senior year, we double qualified for nationals uh, in South and North Carolina, and we were the first boat to go to nationals out of Riley's Catch. But they now have like 7, 8 boats at every single event. They got kids in the junior events. I'll shoot you over the guy who runs it now, and I'll shoot you or Andrew his contact information if you want to reach out to him.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. I love to see that.
All right. Yeah, I'll shoot you all the information after the episode.
Okay, cool.
But what's your favorite pair of sunglasses in the lineup that you guys sell right now?
You know, it's I wear a different pair of fishing than I do just every day. The ones I wear every day right now are 12 South. They're kind of retro 70s type of style, and they I don't know. I like those a lot. They're six base, so they're a little bit flatter, and uh, more of a lifestyle. So you can fish in them, but sometimes they're a little lighter on the sides. And then as far as a fishing frame, I would say probably Vega
Okay.
is my favorite. It's got a wide temple, so it keeps a lot of the light out and fits me really well. So Vega's great for me. Sometimes I'll wear a Stiltsville, which is I kind of have an extra large head, and so I can just stay in the large, extra large category. But yeah, Vega and Stiltsville are probably my two favorites.
Yeah, I like the nippers and then the caldas. That calda one, I like how it's kind of like a crossover between a good lifestyle sunglasses and then also a great fishing sunglass. Um, but all the lens color options are used for different situations, which is kind of cool.
Hmm.
Would you give me an example of what situation you'd use most of the colors in, or pick like
Yeah,
your top three or whatever?
yeah. I mean, when we designed the lens selection, we wanted to make it easy for people to pick out the one that was going to be appropriate, and we also wanted to have some logic to it. The other companies' lenses, they're just kind of all over the map, and they had about the same light transmission. So we built the line where we wanted to go from the darkest lens to the lightest lens. So we have five mirror colors that go from 10% light transmission up to 22% light transmission. The blue lens, and they each have, we built these lenses, you know, not to get into too much like technical stuff, but they're they're made with multiple layers, and so the way that the layers interact with each other depends on how much contrast you might have, how much clarity you might have, um, and what condition they're going to be the best for. And so typically, the more red the base lens color has, the higher the contrast level is going to be, which is great if you're looking at fish, on a bed, or you're looking for a permit on turtle grass or whatever. So the blue lens, which is the darkest, has the blue mirror, has 10% light transmission. So it's the darkest. It's for offshore, primarily marlin, any of the pelagic species. You're not really looking down through the water to see them. You're looking across the top of the water. So just think blue and deep blue sea, and you know that's what that one's for. The green, we introduce a copper base, and so it's brownish red. It's a 12% light transmission, and that's for inshore, like the flats, Belize and places like that. You can see the fish against the bottom, but it's still pretty dark because the sun's bright down there. And then silver, we recommend that for, it's a 14% light transmission. We recommend that for lakes and rivers. Bass fishing is great. It has a brown base, so it's a high contrast as well, but it's a little bit lighter. So if you got tree cover or cloud cover, it's good for that.
Okay.
Um, then we've got two lenses, the pink and the purple, or rose and violet is what we call them, that are more low light conditions. So the rose is 18% light transmission. It has a red base to it. It is amazing on the flats. I wear it all the time. But when we put that on guides at the very beginning, I think we were down in Honduras or Mexico doing a photo shoot, and those guys are like, pink lens? I'm not wearing a pink lens. That's for girls. And I'm like, just put it on, man. And they put it on, and they're like, holy crap, this is incredible. And there's like, any more of those pink lenses? Uh, that lens has just been a home run. And then we wanted something even a little bit lighter. So the violet lens is it's purple and has a yellow base to it. Um, so it looks yellow when you're looking through it, but it's really purple. And and that's a 22 to 24% light transmission, so super light, but has that really high contrast as well. And that's great, for when it's cloudy or early in the morning, late at night, and it's really good on the flats, sight fishing situations.
Okay. So if I
Yeah.
were to go and buy a pair for say like a good crossover for flats fishing and then fly fishing small creeks and stuff, would you go that pink lens or would you go silver?
Well, I think if you're looking for kind of an all-purpose, I'd go silver,
Okay.
and then usually the pink, the rose and the violet are the second pair that you have in your
Okay.
box. Yeah. Um, but I think the silver is awesome for a variety of situations
Okay.
for sure.
I have
Yeah.
a brown pair too, and I was in Aruba stalking bonefish and tarpon on foot, and
Hmm.
those brown lenses are perfect for that water down there in Aruba.
Yeah, they're great. And we do have, the brown and the gray with no mirror on them at all. And, those are amazing lenses. They're about a 14% light transmission, so same as silver. And yeah, those perform just as well as the mirrors. It's more of a cosmetic thing, really. The mirrors make them a little bit darker, is where that comes into play. Reflects off some of the light, but yeah, for flats fishing, anything in the brown family's perfect.
Oh yeah, they were unbelievable. I loved them.
Cool.
What kinds of fishing tournaments have you fished, and what one were you fishing last week?
Um, Last week, I actually had to back out of that tournament because I was having to deal with all these tariffs and stuff here at work, unfortunately.
Oh man.
But that was a trips tarpon tournament down in Key West, so it was tarpon primarily. I fish mostly Keys tournaments. We fished in fly fishing like one fly and stuff like that out west, but I do the March Merkin every year. Del Brown, whenever it doesn't overlap with ICAST, I can do that one. Sugarloaf Showdown, which is really fun. Cuda Bowl is really fun fishing for barracudas down in the Keys.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so yeah, mostly those types of deals. We fished. Actually, Marguerite and I went down to Tropic Star Lodge with Guy Harvey last year and fished in a marlin tournament, and that was pretty fun. We used to fish the Miami Billfish tournament quite a bit, so I guess we fished a few different types of tournaments over the years. Yeah.
Guy Harvey seems like a straight up dude.
He's such a good guy. I mean, and people see all this his art on everything. That dude is a legit scientist, and an incredible artist. I mean, he even painted one of the cruise ships. I think it was Norwegian Cruise Line. He painted the whole side of the freaking cruise ship.
I
It's amazing,
I
and
think I remember seeing that.
yeah, he just did it by hand. Literally painted like billfish and all kinds of stuff on the side of this cruise ship. It's incredible.
I remember seeing that. It was like two. It was a little bit ago when they released that new ship, and I think it was on like his Facebook page or something like that, and it looked unbelievable. It was so
Yeah,
cool. And it looked like you guys had a pretty good little crowd out there at the Lefty Cray Fly Tying Fest last week.
we did. Jay went down for that. Jay Johnson, and um, Sunday night he brought a couple folks back up with him, and uh, Larry Dahlberg. I don't know if you
Oh
know
yeah, legend.
Larry. Yeah, hunt big fish. He came up and we had dinner Sunday night out in Jay's backyard, and it was super fun because we just like told stories and you know had a I don't know. He's a legend, and
Oh yeah.
he is. He says he's fished in 89 different countries, and has caught every big fish imaginable. And now he's 75 years old, lives in Wisconsin on this land that I think was his great grandfather's land, and he I think he was kind of done with the traveling stuff so much, but I'm sure has lots of time to sit back and reflect on all the good stuff that he's done
Oh
over his
yeah,
life. I hope I'm able to do that myself someday.
it's
But
me and you both. But
yeah,
it looked like Andy Mill was out there too with Millhouse. He's a pretty
yeah,
cool dude
he's a good
too.
guy. Yeah, he's always like his tarpon fishing seminars that he does,
Oh
and
yeah.
get your legs into it.
Big conservation guy down there in Florida too, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, I think everybody in Florida is so conservation oriented, probably more than any state, in
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of ways. And
100%.
our fishery is good. I mean, even Mosquito Lagoon, the state, we had a problem with septic, and instead of having city water, they had septic tanks along there, and so the state has put in tens of millions of dollars to convert it into city water to clean up the water quality, uh, planting mangroves, planting oysters, turtle grass, all that stuff, and yeah, it's amazing the investment the state makes and all
Oh
that.
yeah. I think I have a hat from a collab you guys did with Man Gear. They're
Yeah,
they're a big they're a big part of that planting the mangroves and stuff like that. I used to fish down there. I used to fish down there on Canaveral seashores over there. Dang, I'm not gonna spot burn it, but it's it's uh it's down there by Canaveral. You'd probably know exactly where it is. You can walk the whole thing on foot, and it's slap full of tarpon.
yep.
Um, but that you see it, it's a huge difference now with like the whole thing with the sewage and then them planting mangroves and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the lagoon has always been tough because there's no outlet, so it doesn't get flushed. But what they found is that runoff from fertilizer and then the sewage system is really what pollutes the water the most because it's very shallow, it's not very tidal, and so I've seen it kind of come and go over the years. But this time, all the grass is coming back, the big bull reds are coming in, and it feels like it's here to stay. That they've really made some long lasting improvements to it. And I mean, the number of fish that we have and the different varieties, we got tarpon back in there and redfish and trout, sheep's head are super fun. Um, and then right off the beach, everything just kind of comes by depending time of year. We got cobia coming up, we got pompano. It is really becoming you can even catch permit in the surf up here, all the way up here.
Oh yeah,
Snook. There was a big freeze, whatever, 10, 15 years ago, wiped out the snook. They've come back, and yeah, I don't want everybody coming here and fishing, but it's it's a pretty sweet spot.
oh yeah, it's awesome. But this is how I close out the segment every week. But what are your five go-to fishing songs for uh, for the playlist that I put together on Spotify?
Um, I love Camp. It's a newer band, but we we actually took the lead singer of Camp and his brother uh, on a week long photo shoot, and he played for us the whole time and just brought his guitar and played. And I love those guys. And Lavender Girl. I mean, there's a ton of their songs that are awesome. I am. I mean, I would love some old country stuff like some Merle Haggard and stuff like that. And then I'm a Neil Young, Bob Dylan
Oh,
sort of '60s dude as well. Uh, just a pretty big variety.
oh
Um,
yeah.
and so and my wife was a punk rocker, so we get some of that, you know, some of that mixed in there as well.
Oh yeah, I put 5 in every week too, and one of mine was Southern Cross, Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's
Oh,
CSN. There's CSNY. Then
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole different ballgame there. But
Yeah. For sure.
dude, thank you so much for coming on. Um, I'll shoot you over that information, or I'll shoot it over to Andrew to share with you.
Okay. Sweet.
And but anything else you want to say?
No, man, I really appreciate you having me on. I love, talking fishing, talking Bajío, and super generous of you to have me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, man. That this is probably gonna be the favorite episode that I put out there. So, thank you so much. Uh, Again, just awesome stuff you guys are doing over there.
All right. Well, if you're down this way, man, come by and see us. I'll show you where the glasses are made, and we'll hit the lagoon, do a little fishing.
Yeah, man, I'll probably be down there here soon. I gotta go down there for just to go fish, get away from the big city of Charlotte here for a little bit. you know, yeah. But thank you again, man. I greatly appreciate you coming on. All right, sir. Talk soon. Bye. All right, let's see. That was Al Perkinson with Bajío Sunglasses. That was a super awesome episode. If you were in the market for a new pair of sunglasses, that was probably a great episode to listen to if you are right there. Awesome dude, super knowledgeable, really cool dude. Um, but like very interesting. Sculpting major in college. Never knew that. Didn't know he was from North Carolina. He lived literally not far from where my parents live now as a kid, which down there in uh, Lansdowne, I actually had some friends that lived in the neighborhood of Lansdowne. Um, just small world thing right there, man. Lansdowne now is a lot different from when Lansdowne from when Al was a kid. It used to be just fields and stuff like that before Providence Road got all built up. But we got a couple. We got another event coming here. I will let you know what it is. It's down in Charleston. It's the wrong account. Down there in Charleston. I just saved it, so it is the Red Spot Roundup after party. So May 3rd, this Saturday, the Red Spot Roundup ends. So 2 to 5 at Free House Beer Charleston. They're having the Red Spot Roundup after party. So that's pretty cool. They have some awesome vendors. Paul Puckett's going to be there, awesome artist. Um, and then they'll be announcing the winner of part one of the Red Spot Roundup 4 p.m. So live stream that, see who wins it. But again, that is May 3rd from 2 to 5, and they will be announcing the winner at 4. So show up, Free House Beer in Charleston, South Carolina. Sure, that's going to be an awesome event. Those Afterward Fish Club guys are doing some pretty cool stuff. So go check that out. But other than that, I don't really have much more for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoy that episode with Al Perkinson. And if you're in the market for a new pair of sunglasses, go check out Bajío on their website. I'll put the website in the show notes. But great episode. Until Friday, I think I should be having a solo episode on Friday. So let you guys know. I'll pick out a topic. We'll go from there. But until Friday, go catch some fish and finish out the week strong. Thank you.